You know what? I gotta go through the town. Oh. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I'm gonna go in through the town's website because I can't share my screen.
Okay.
I knew there was something I had to do differently. So I will dial back in.
Okay.
All right.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
How's your kids?
Well, there'll be one next week.
I was thinking it was about that time. Wow.
I know, right? It was like the last town meeting is why I didn't attend, right? So I know. Crazy.
Wow. And how are they doing?
They're great. They're good.
Good.
It's funny. I always say this. It's funny to have two, little humans that you do the same thing with, and they're totally different personalities.
Wow.
But yeah, they're starting to walk a little bit, and they just eat all day. But it's been so fun.
Do they try to stand up and hold on?
Yeah, they've been doing that for a couple of weeks now. And now they'll like let go and take a few steps. And so it's been fun. It's a little horrifying just to see them like climbing and all of that. But yeah, it's fun.
Wow,
Yeah. So it's been good.
great. That's so great.
Yeah, it's been good. Hi, Paula.
Hey, Rebecca. Hey, Nancy.
Hi. Trish was here a minute ago. I don't know where she went.
Okay, Trish, you're muted. There you go.
Am I okay now?
Yeah,
That's funny. I have a message on the screen that says the host is not allowing participants to unmute themselves. Whatever.
weird stuff happens.
Mhm.
Looks like Ellen's tuning in on 2 places, or
Hi, Ellen. Your speaker's a little funky.
Oh, let's see.
sound far away.
Nahant, it shouldn't be too far. Let's see.
Right, I know you're just down the street.
Let's see. Wish I was far away. No, I don't really mean that.
That's a little better.
Any
So,
better? Huh. Uh-oh.
so let's get started since we're all here. Did everybody have a chance to look at the minutes Nancy sent around?
Yes.
Yes.
My only comment was on April 11th. Mussman is spelled incorrectly. It's only
Oh.
one S.
Sorry,
That's okay.
I will correct that. And then after we vote separately on each of these, then I will send them to the clerk.
All right, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of March 9th?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of March 9th.
Is there a second?
I'll second Aldrich.
All in favor? Aye.
Ellen.
Aye.
And now let's do a motion to approve the minutes of April 11th.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of April 11th.
Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Actually, Rebecca seconded it, but I think you're muted, Rebecca.
Yeah, you don't show up as a muted, but you can't, nobody can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Oh, maybe it's the wrong headphones. Sorry.
All right, so all in favor of approving the minutes of April 11th?
Aye.
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 Aye, okay, that's unanimous too.
Okay, good.
Well, what did everybody think about the public forum?
Thought it was good. Decent attendance.
I wish there were more, but hey,
Anybody have any All right, so let's go to the number 3, the discuss comments on the draft open space and recreation plan. Did everybody send in their comments to Courtney?
I did, and he answered and said he got them and would make the changes. I just wanted, can I just say something about what I changed? Because I just wanted to tell you guys.
Okay,
You know, I was making a big deal on page 13 about the native people, the indigenous people.
Yep.
So we've subsequently had meetings with this Sagamore from the Massachusetts tribe. And this is the Historic Society and the library. And it's very interesting because, as in everything else, there are divisions among these people. And we were listening to one group of people, but then this other group said, no, they were the real people. So anyway, we're going by what is the Massachusetts whole group saying. And so that's why I changed it. So I just
Okay.
wanted to let you know that. And it's something that we're going to be working more with in the town, and maybe in the school and other kinds of projects along with these people. So anyway, I changed that, and the rest of the things. Oh, I did make a significant change. I hope you all agree with. In the accomplishments that we had done, I asked please to take out Bailey's Hill and Little Nahant Playground, because both of those had received funding through CPC last year, but none of them had spent any of that funding, and certainly those projects are not completed. So I hope you agree. I asked them to delete those 2 things.
okay, great.
Yeah.
Great.
The other 2 things I had were just sort of little corrections on typos or things like that. So.
Yeah, I sent in my comments and that was pretty much it as well.
Same.
Did we get other comments from people going to the town website and reviewing documents?
Well, I did find out last week, or maybe, yeah, I think it was last week, that Kristen had posted it and then it disappeared and then she reposted it again. So I don't know if people, I did not hear from anybody. Well, actually I did. So I heard from a reporter for the Lynn item. I was on vacation. Were there any stories on the Lynn item? I just got back on Sunday. Were there any stories in the Lynn item last week about this?
I don't get the items, so I don't know. Hey, Josh, do you?
Okay,
I don't either,
because
so.
I spoke to a reporter on Thursday, and she had trouble. I talked to her from a car, a rental car, while I was driving in Florida, and she had trouble trying to find the open space plan. And so I told her it was on the town's website. I sort of guided her through how to get there. What she really saw was just the action items. And I didn't know that because I was driving in my car and I couldn't look. But then when I got to where I was staying, I was able to log on and see that something happened to the link, because I had looked at the link and everything was okay. And then all of a sudden, Kristen said something happened when she published it or something. And so it dropped off. And so I called the reporter back and apologized because we were talking about different things. And she sent me a story, but I don't know if it's been published yet. I don't think it has. And she may wait until May 3rd, after we get comments, to understand exactly what's happened. She was not the same reporter who wrote the story on Linfield. There was a front page story on Linfield getting approval for their open space plan. And one of the questions she had is, why was MAPC involved? And I said, well, and she said, Linfield, they didn't have them. I said, well, Linfield has paid staff that look at this, you know, whether it was a conservation agent or a planning director. And I said, Nahant has none of that. So it's really difficult when you're volunteers to do all that. And MAPC has been really helpful in putting it all together, especially with all the graphics and the plans. I mean, they were
There-
instrumental in the survey. So,
Right.
so I told her that. So I don't know whether or not the story's going to run, but I did talk to her a couple times.
I would just like to say, if we ever have to talk again, there are many towns who do have town budgets that, and with people who can work on it, who still use MAPC. You know, it's not like we're just the poor people who don't, you know, have town staff who could work on it. Because other towns, big towns do, so
Whether
anyway,
it's NEPC or other agencies, most towns do use some guidance from, you know, a company outside of the municipality, I think. That's what my experience has been looking at them.
So we'll see what she writes. I mean, it was a good story, really. I mean, it wasn't anything, she had sent it to me and said, was there anything that was, you know, totally off, and it wasn't. So, so that was good. I sent my comments to Courtney today. And anybody else, did everybody else take a look at it and send in any comments?
I didn't really have any comments. I had sort of looked at it pretty closely prior.
Yeah.
Great,
I looked, but no comments.
great.
I,
Wait, so
I just want to go back, sorry, to the meeting, the community meeting, and I had gotten a comment from someone. Remember, he asked the question, like, how many of you had been here at the previous meeting? And there were like hardly any people who had, you know, were repeaters. And then someone emailed me later on and said, well, how come we didn't talk about the pickleball? Because I thought that that's what we were going to talk about. So I don't know. I know if there was a contingent of people who wanted to address pickleball, but nobody had anything to say about it. But anyway, that was just a comment I got by somebody. Do you have any information about that, Trish?
Let's see. Well, it seemed to me in the community forum, Courtney did a lot of the talking. Didn't he talk like 95% of the time? There was very little time for community members to have input, I thought.
But they did.
During the meeting?
No, at the end, when he opened it up.
Yeah, there was some at the end, exactly. And then, of course, they had an opportunity to make comments by going to the town website, theoretically, if it was there, and using that process. So I didn't hear anything
Okay.
else. No.
Okay, great.
All right, should we
So
go
there
on?
I have one more point though. So at the forum, somebody mentioned adding an action item that would be in year 6 for the committee to work on a new open space and recreation plan. Right?
So Courtney, when I asked, or we were asking, how are we going to keep our committee going? And then it came down to, we don't have an end point, and we can just say, be lumped in with the rest of the town committees. I think this is right, Paula, at town meeting, that we will keep going. But then Courtney mentioned some towns have an action plan that deals with setting aside the money for a new plan and keeping on going and that kind of stuff. So I don't know. Thanks for bringing it up. I don't know if we want to add that, Paula, or what you think.
Let's wait. Let's go into the CPA things and then get the committee bylaw suggestions and provisions. Because that may cover it depending upon how we work on that and how we arrive on a bylaw. So let's do I mean, at this point, I mean, it could be an action item, but I think we know that the town has to do it. So I don't really know if it really needs to be an action item. We know that the plans are only good for 7 years, so So there will be some committee that's going to have to do this. And I would propose that we have a bylaw that defines this committee better. And that would be one of its, duties really, as part of the committee. So, but let's go to the CPA because we can talk about that in number 5. Nancy, you want me to share my screen? Because I do
Yeah.
have that.
That would be good, just so people could look at the language of what was written, if that's possible.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so I will scroll down and I forget what numbers is it?
If you just keep scrolling down, we'll find it. Just
Historic
a-
preservation, open space. Yeah, so here it is, E.
yeah. Okay, so this one is about the Heritage Trail. And maybe could you scroll down a teeny bit so more of it shows? Okay, that's good, I guess. What happened, just to give you, there's very convoluted history to all of this, and I won't go into all of it, but what happened was Kevin Andrews of the school submitted a proposal for like 25,000 to fix up the Heritage Trail in the area around the school. That kind of went over to where it goes up the hill into the military housing and starting over on Flash Road near the playground. And it had a number of issues having to do with kids and safety and bicycles and signage and actually where the trail should go because of the golf course and stuff. So in a discussion, it was decided that really there needed to be more work done. And so people helped him and they decided they were going to hire someone to do a plan so that they would actually study the surface and talk about the signage and decide where exactly the trail would go. And it's going to be changed a little bit from where I think it originally ran. And so people kept saying, well, is this okay with the open space committee? And it's like, well, we haven't talked about it, but at some point along the line, we should have something to say about it. And I also asked Kevin to get in touch with Linda Pivacek, who was instrumental in getting this whole thing going. So it came down to not giving him just the 25,000, but to give him like 11,000 for making up the plan and beginning to do some of the work, as you can see there. And then he would, as with a number of other proposals, submit again next year for what he needed to complete the plan. Any questions or anything about that? I kept wanting to like have all of us talk about this, but it got so complicated and everything kept changing that even if we had talked about it at some time, February, March or something, it all changed. So I don't know exactly how to do this in the future, but I guess the best thing would have been if we could have met like right before the final things had been submitted. Maybe that's what we should try to do next year. But anyway, I just did my best to try to represent what I thought was what we thought about and then talk to Paula or other people individually.
I think that's good though. I think that's all we can do. I mean, we had it as an agenda item on one meeting, but you're right, if it kept changing.
Right.
I mean, I'm okay with this. I think this is great.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is a good outcome, Nancy. I mean, having checked out that area of the trail that is Kevin's mostly concerned about. I totally agree, it needs reconfiguring, but I think getting somebody who has some expertise in that is probably the first order of business, not just kind of doing one section and not looking at the trail as a whole, so.
Yeah, and they were also, resurfacing was important because some of that's in a wet area and they wanted to make it safer, like maybe use some kind of stone dust or stone something to, make it not so wet and safe for bicycles and kids and older people who want to walk and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I was pretty happy with how it came out.
Yeah, I think it's good. I walked it with a couple of friends last week, and they actually had no idea that it continued through the Flash Road area. So I think that a lot of people just don't know where to go once it ends on the street.
Yeah.
So I think
It is a little unmarked and
Yeah.
unclear.
Yeah, so I think it's a great outcome to have that, overview of how to make it better.
Okay, great. Okay, there were 3 others that we need to
Yep.
just briefly.
So I'm gonna scroll down.
I'm sorry, I didn't remember what.
So this is housing, historic preservation. This is a Little Nahant Short Beach Playground.
Okay, so what happened was that the town asked for $100,000 with nothing specified. And the committee said, we need more information. What's going on? So the town came back. So Tony and Zach went to all the playgrounds, inventoried the stuff, and came back with a plan that would have called for 137,000, but still there were people who had problems with the fact that what about the planning of this? What are we not just fixing things up? And people said they bring their kids to Swampscott because they have these more, up-to-date playgrounds and stuff like that. So what was decided was that we would try to focus on the Little Nahant playground, which is the worst one. So that area had a lot of stuff taken away because it was in such bad shape. And also things couldn't get fixed up there because the beach needed to be, the dune area needed to be I forget what the right word is, but fixed up so that it would be some protection for that beach, part of the MVP plan or something like that. Anyway, that seems to have been the FEMA grant funded that, and that seems to be okay. So it was our suggestion that instead of doing 6 playgrounds, 3 of which are like about Flash Road, but then there's the other, the Little Nahant, the Pleasant Street, forget what the other one is, but anyway, there were 6 individual playgrounds that we would just focus on the Little Nahant one. And Tony had gone ahead and had a meeting with community people in that area to ask them what they thought, like what had happened with the Swing With Me people in like 2006 or something like that, a long time ago, which was fixed up a lot of the playgrounds in town. So those people were anxious to help, to have fundraising, to contribute with work. And so it was the idea that any playground work was going to need community support and community fundraising, since this equipment is outrageously expensive. And Tony had already something like $25,000 from last year for one piece of equipment to be used in the Little Nahant playground. And that grant was not spent because because of this dune thing. So we just decided that we would I think, let's see, that we wanted to focus $40,000 to be applied to the Little Nahant restoration in addition to the 24 that he already had, and that a $20,000 would be used to develop plans for the remaining playgrounds. It's hoped that communities could give input and we could get equipment that is sort of modern and up to date. I don't know if any of you guys have seen, those new apartments on the Linway, that they just built where, Market Street comes out and you look across while you're waiting for the light and there's this like play structure that's there. Do you guys, have you focused on that at all? It's a pretty, maybe Rebecca, you might know more about this, but that's one of the kinds of things that Swampscott has in a few places. So we're just saying, well, concentrate on this one, try to develop plans for the other one, and then go forward from there.
Where's the 5 playgrounds?
Yeah, that's what I'm
All right,
wondering.
so let me just go back to the page because I had this all written down. Okay, there is, he substituted, so there's the Johnson School, Johnson School had 3 playgrounds, 3 different areas. One was by the DPW, one was the basketball court, and one was like the one that's further behind the school. Then comes the Little Nahant, then comes Pleasant Street, then comes Flash Road. So 3 were in Johnson School.
So I guess I thought that was a different budget pool, I thought.
Well, apparently when town presented it, it wasn't.
Okay,
So they're the ones who submitted all this, and so I don't think they would want to take more things than if they knew it was coming from
Right,
somewhere
yeah.
else.
just surprises me. I thought that was a different.
Yeah, so did I. But apparently the town is responsible for that. So that's again, we're trying to get some like planning in, get community involved, and try to deal with the absolute horrendous amount of money that it costs to do playgrounds over.
Yeah.
Swampscott got, big time donors, including people from Nahant, who, like construction type people who, gave time and money and stuff. And I mean, maybe we can try to get more help, from people in town. But it's just didn't seem right to just fix the old stuff that we have, just to have swings and an old fashioned jungle gym and try to make them more attractive if we can figure out a way to do it. So that's the thinking of that.
Sounds good.
Is that, anybody have anything to say or?
Nope, I think that's a good compromise.
Okay. And it was part of a time when we were trying to get down the whole budget. So we were looking at each program to try to see how we could, make it somewhat smaller or divide it for 2 years. Okay, so that's playground. So we have 2 more. One is Bailey's Hill, one is Lodge Park.
Here's the Bailey's Hill.
Okay. So this got really complicated, but the town decided that they wanted to continue. So we have this one grant that Ellen wrote and got approved last year. And originally her grant was for like 81,000 or something. And that got broken down into 41,000, which was approved at the town meeting last year and was for a specific area of Bailey's Hill across from Oceanside. It got complicated when the town wanted to do the whole rest of the area. And, as you guys remember, we had a meeting in December where we kind of were all there and trying to figure it out. But anyway, the town did not want to spend money on a plan as I understand it, but they wanted to address the other side. So there's kind of, the Fort Ruckman is kind of north, and the other hill, like where they shoot the fireworks off and all that, is more south. And that's what this plan addresses. And they came, and I know that Josh had a big part in, and Zach and Josh kind of went over this area. They took a lot of pictures, and they're proposing that that 25,000 be used to remove invasives and do pathway restoration. They had a lot of specific language about pruning the trees that needed to, fence repair. And I know people in town are upset because the DPW's cut down staghorn sumac, which is a native plant, but I think that rightly so, it can be cut back in certain areas, especially for views. If you go to the top of the hill, looking down across where the gazebo is and to the other hill, things have upgrown so incredibly that when you sit on those benches across from Tri Mountain, you can't see anything. So a lot was cut down. But in order to make people happy about this stuff about staghorn sumac, they said selective pruning. So anyway, so a plan pretty much kind of like the first part of Ellen's plan to do apart from Oceanside was approved to do the second hill, as I understand it, and that's what they're going to be taking away invasives. So in the future, we have to consider how we are going to do the restoration and maintenance plans for these areas and what is acceptable to the town. So that's that.
I don't have any problems with that. I don't know if anybody else does. I think it's fine.
And, and Ellen has, we were happy that finally they started to work on the part that, Ellen and I were really frustrated to try to get some work done, and then a section got done. And so we're hoping that, more of that work can be ongoing.
Yeah, I'm hoping this spring that 41,000 grant can be utilized to finish that project, and I'm trying to get on that. My communication has been a little bit lackluster on the other side of it, so I'm hoping that I can make some headway soon. So
I'm still confused, Ellen, about where the money's going to be spent, because we think it's for one area and I think the town thinks it's for that whole area. So I don't know.
I thought that it was definitely, we're going to finish the project that we started, which is the slope heading down towards Ocean View and the path that leads up to the turret.
Right.
But I don't know when we'll meet again, but I'm hoping between now and the next meeting that there'll be some progress and some reporting that I can bring back to everybody.
Great.
Great.
And so the last one is Lodge Park. Oh yeah, East Point. Okay, so this group got together called Friends of East Point, maybe now called Friends of Lodge Park, because it's clear we want the work to be done on the land that the town actually owns at this point. Not to confuse anyone about the eminent domain piece of it. And so swim, so they went to, and Trish and I are involved directly in this, Ellen indirectly, but the proposals were asked of a number of different organizations, and we went to with and Trish did a lot of this work, went to Mass Audubon, who knows the town very well because of their thicket work. And they gave us a proposal that we thought was the best, which was for $75,000. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. It was for
7,500 altogether.
7,500, sorry, 7,500, and 3,000 of that was gonna come from swim, so that we were only asking the town for 45. And that, even though it hasn't been funded, is kind of ongoing, and the money does not need to be sent to them until it's, you know, appropriated and available from the town. So I know that some people look to this as a kind of model, and I know Lynn was pretty, in further talks we had, was like thinking, hoping that we had more planning that would go into things, and then develop a plan that would be for maintenance, et cetera. So anyway, I see there's something in the chat section from Josh.
Oh, yeah, so Josh said he just emailed Tony and asked about the timeline for the $40,000 worth of work at Fort Ruckman. And he said that he also discussed this with Zach, and he thought the Fort Ruckman work would begin this spring.
Great. Thank you.
Great.
So that's what's happening in the places that were directly open space. There was a question whether open space was going to be in that 9 Little Nahant Road thing, but there were lots of different possibilities of what that would be under, but that whole project was dropped. So we didn't have to deal with that as open space.
Great. Anybody have any questions? I think you did a great job, Nancy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for all that effort.
Okay, it was pretty, it changed a whole lot. So I, you know, maybe next year, or as we go on, because even though we're not the plan committee, we still are going to have to deal with CPC things every year as they come up. So we do have to have some kind of a committee for more than just, you know, writing the plan. So
Great. That's a great segue, unless anybody has any other questions or comments on this, because it's a great segue to the town, to the committee bylaw suggestions and provisions. I've done a lot of research actually on bylaws in other towns for open space.
could I ask you, could you go back to the take off the screen sharing, unless, do you have to
Yeah.
share something?
No.
Okay.
And open space committees run the gamut. Many of them are subcommittees of the Conservation Commission. And because open space committees have no function in Massachusetts state law, unlike the planning board, which is, you know, has its own state statute, or the finance committee, or the zoning board of appeals. You know, those are all committees within the town that are part of the general laws. So like every town has to have them, basically. Conservation Commission is another one that's a creation of state statute. So open space committees in many communities are basically a function of other committees. And a lot of them are come under the Conservation Commission. And I think that's because in a lot of cities and towns, the conservation commissions actually own property. They're one of the few, I in fact, they may be the only one besides a town, the only town body that can own property outright. It can be under the care, custody, and control of a conservation commission, any town-owned land. And a lot of conservation restrictions in towns that have a lot of conservation restrictions, those conservation restrictions are held by the Conservation Commission. Now, I'm not suggesting that's what we do, but I think we have to start thinking about what are the things that we do want, and how the committee should be organized and who should appoint. And I think we should reach out to the Recreation Committee as well. I don't know, we haven't really had any, they do, they sort of operate the tot lots or the tot lot program. I'm not sure, I think they do the that's another 4th of July committee separate. But since, we have an open space and recreation plan, I mean, we can keep it separate or we can fold it in together, or I don't know, what do people think? I put this on the agenda just to really talk about it before we actually draft anything. And I will say that on this annual town meeting, this committee will be extended so that it doesn't like go away at town meeting. So it'll be extended like any other ad hoc or regular committees are extended.
So
The bylaw wouldn't require that if we had it if it was part of the town's bylaws.
I just wanted to say, whenever there was something about recreation, I reached out to Jen McCarthy, who's the head of recreation, and I sent all these things to her, like about the playground and about the Johnson School. And I never got any response. She's incredibly busy, I get it. I think we would need to request to know more about the rec committee, but I agree with you, they should be part of it.
Do you think we should get committee members from different committees? Like, should we ask the Conservation Commission, do you want to appoint a member? Do we want to keep it so that it's appointed by, I mean, right now we're appointed by the moderator and the selectmen. And I think we're probably one of the only committees that's appointed that way. Because I know the selectmen have some appointing authorities, the moderator has some, and then the town administrator has some. So we have to think about that as well, like who should appoint us. And that should be part of the bylaw.
And how many committee members? Because right now we're limited to 5.
Correct. And there are committees that are 7, and there are committees that are 5. I've seen both in what I've done and what I've looked at it.
I think it would be helpful to have 7 members because, I mean, the plan was a lot of work, but executing some of the action plan, I think is gonna cover a lot of bases. And I think that it'd be good to have more hands in, and also maybe somebody who does have more of a recreational purview than maybe I do. So, I don't know. I just think it might be good to have a few more people involved in executing our action plans.
All right. Anybody else have any opinions?
I just think that when we write this bylaw, or however we do it, we also stress the point that I sort of just made, is that CPC funds are given to open space and recreation, and we should have a committee so that they can respond to those things. I don't quite know how, with all the years that we didn't exist, it just kind of got sent forward and it wasn't discussed by any committee because we didn't exist. But that's, to me, another reason why we need an ongoing committee.
Okay.
And I think having more people would give us a chance maybe to have like a subcommittee component where, you know, we can divide and conquer a little bit more clearly.
Do you think we should have representatives from, like one from the Recreation Committee, Planning Board, or Conservation Commission?
I think it would be good, but they're probably, especially the Concom, it might be a little spread out as it is, so it might be a hard sell, I'm not sure, but it would be helpful for sure.
I know people are really busy. It's hard to, when
Okay,
you're on
all
one
right.
board or committee, it's kind of hard.
It'd be ideal, but it might not be practical. Yeah.
All right, well, I'm gonna keep looking at things, and if anybody has any ideas, just email me ideas.
So I had suggested a name of the person who, she's the one, I think you know her name. I can't bring it forward in my mind right now. The one who actually reviews our grant. You were gonna email this woman and ask if she had any information on the
Yeah,
formation.
I
of it.
wanted her to focus on our plan before I did that,
Okay,
because,
great.
and when I started looking at other cities and towns, they run the gamut. I mean, it really does.
Okay.
And, you know, it's not a, because it isn't in state law, it's, you know, it's sort of what we want, really. Because we don't have, there's no guidelines, and I was gonna reach out to her, but she's the person that approves all the plans.
Yeah,
And so I thought I'd rather have her look at ours and do the draft before I sort of bothered her about that, because that can be a bit much. And I started looking at the Attorney General for towns has to approve bylaws. And I started looking at that, at those approvals too. And then I had to do real work. But I'm gonna keep looking at that, because we have, I mean, my goal is to get something done by next year's annual town meeting. And hopefully by then the plan will have been formally approved. We'll be able to start working on some of the things that the CPC grants are, and we can work on this as well. So, but I'll keep looking, and what I might do, I won't have it done before the next meeting, but what I'd like to do is to do a draft probably during the summer, and have people take a look at it and think about it. And I also wanted to sit down with Tony to see what he wants, because I know he wanted it at one point for us to take over the benches, which are now turning into trees. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what else he's looking for. So I was going to reach out to him as well. Anything else on that?
no, so then is the plan that we just keep meeting as we need to do the business we need to do?
Yep.
Okay,
And I would think that the next meeting would be after, so I sent my comments to Tony, I mean, to Courtney. I asked him if he had submitted it to the state yet. I haven't heard back from him. And I think our next meeting next week is May 3rd. So we're gonna have to meet in a couple of weeks, and I want to reach out to him to see what he needs from us. And then I will email you all and figure out what, when should be the next meeting.
What happens with the letters of support? Who requests the letters of support, and what's the
I want
timeline?
to ask him that, because I'm going to have to reach out. We're going to have to reach out to the planning board and to the selectmen.
Mhm.
And Tony already said he'll do a letter of support from the selectmen. And then we'll have to reach out to the planning board. Sheila Hamilton was at the meeting, and she's on the planning board. So I don't really anticipate a problem with them, but I'll touch base with Courtney on that. And
The other
we haven't seen any of the accessibility stuff either.
right, that's what I was thinking. You know, there's all these appendices that
Right.
supposedly need to be part of this that we don't know about, and you know, I'd sure like to see all that stuff.
Right. So, All right, so that's that. So the next thing is, I was approached by Diane Dumpy, Sheila Hambleton, and Tony about, there's a town-owned land study committee. And they wanted an appointee from our committee, which at the time was called the Open Space Management Committee, which has sort of morphed into what we are, and through the various town meeting votes. So and they're looking for somebody from our committee, and it can be a member of our committee, or it can be somebody else that we would wish to recommend for this, because they're looking for help with selling the lots of the military housing, is what I understand it's for. I don't really know anything more than that, and I just wanted to see if there were any volunteers from our committee, or if we could come up with a name to help the town, to help look at that. Personally, I don't really want to do it because to me, it's like work. You know, it's what I do every day for a living. And do I want to come home and be a volunteer doing that? Not, probably not. So, I mean, I like open space. I love all this because, you know, I utilize it all the time. Coming home and talking about deeds is probably not what I really want to do. So I don't know if there's anybody else, or if there's anybody that we could recommend to do this.
Not my area of expertise. I don't think I could bring much to that discussion, so maybe somebody else has.
I know, I'm thinking, wouldn't it have to be someone who, I mean, Paul, you're the closest professionally I can think of that does that, but wouldn't it have to be someone that really specializes in either real estate or land or sales or
Municipal, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know. I think they just wanna, I don't know. You know, and I don't really have a good sense of it. They will have the town's attorney will be involved. Daniel Scripp, who's the town's attorney, is going to be involved in this. So it's not like you have to have legal experience. You know, I don't know. It's hard to tell exactly what they're looking for. I mean, I did get up at last year's town meeting to talk about, I wanted to make sure that the vote included certain things for the open space, like the Heritage Trail. And so that's done, because they can't really go back on that, because that was a town meeting vote. But, you know, I'm not sure what else they want to do.
Can we think about it?
Yeah, so does everybody want to think about it? Think about if there's anybody, talk amongst your friends. Is there anybody that, you know, is interested in this? That would want to help out the town in this.
Okay.
did they give you like they didn't really give you any specifics on like what the responsibilities would be, or just to help sell it?
Well, I guess to help figure out how it should be sold. But no, not really. No specifics.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe a little more information and a little more
All right,
time.
let me reach out. I'll reach out to them and see, and maybe bring it back to the next meeting.
Does
So-
that committee have anything to do with this new law thing about towns that are near public transportation have to have so much housing? That's a different issue.
No, I think that's a different issue. I think there's an ad hoc group that's sort of meeting on that.
Okay.
And that's where I don't know if everybody saw the letter that they sent into the state. It's on the town's website, which is where I saw it. Complaining about that law and how the regulation, or the draft regulations for that law. So, you know, that would require 750 new homes or something. So, but no, but it could conceivably, I suppose the town-owned land study committee could conceivably get enmeshed in that if there was any town land that was identified for housing.
All right, thank you.
But I'm not sure, so.
I'll do that. Take good care.
All right, let me find out some more information about that.
Okay.
And just to go back, Paula, that's a committee position that they're looking for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep. All right, I'll get more information about that. And anything else? Anybody else have any business, new business? Josh, you have anything you want to say or address to the committee?
Oh.
He says no.
All right, I think that's it. And I will get back in touch as soon as I hear from Courtney after the 3rd to find out what the comments were and if you know, we have any comments back from the state. I think we'll definitely need a meeting after the comments back from the state. Oh, I did have one question, Nancy. Sorry, I forgot to ask this when we were talking about the CPA. Did they want any of us to speak at town meeting on that for the open space?
We haven't figured out how that's going to be done.
Okay.
We all had to write different sections that, you know, we were assigned sections and then we had to write those sections and everything. So I don't know if that's how they'll do it or what. So when I know more, I'll just let you know.
Okay, all right. All right, great. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, great. All in favor? Aye.
Hi.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Hey, Josh,
you.
good luck this weekend. I suppose I shouldn't say that, but you're unopposed, so. All right, bye.
Okay, bye.
Everybody.